No one talks about what happens to strong women. We don't break, we disappear. And if you've been feeling tired, even when your life looks fine, this might be why. The strongest women don't fall apart. They don't break down in front of people. They don't ask for help. They keep going. They keep showing up. They keep holding everything together. And from the outside, it looks like strength. But inside, something feels different. Something feels off. You feel tired, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally. In a way you can't fully explain. You go through your day, you do everything you're supposed to do, you take care of people, you handle responsibilities, you solve problems, you keep things running, and still there's this quiet feeling in the background. This can't be all. Maybe your life looks fine, maybe even good, but something inside you feels empty, disconnected, like you're living your life, but not really inside it. You don't feel fully present. You don't feel fully alive. You just function. And the strange part is, most people would never guess. Because you look like you have it all together. You're the one others rely on, the one who doesn't fall apart, the one who keeps everything stable. But no one sees how much effort it takes to be you. You don't ask for help, not because you don't need it, but because it feels easier to handle everything yourself than to risk being disappointed. You say, I'm fine, even when your chest feels tight, even when your body feels heavy, even when you're one small thing away from feeling overwhelmed. You've become used to carrying things alone, not just responsibilities, but emotions, expectations, pressure. You've learned to process everything internally, quietly, without making it visible, and over time, you stopped even asking yourself what you need because needing things started to feel uncomfortable or inconvenient or weak. You don't remember the last time you felt soft, truly relaxed, safe enough to let go. You're always a little tense, a little alert, a little in control, even when there's no real danger. And maybe you've asked yourself this before. When did I become like this? Because you weren't always like this. There was a time when you felt more, when you laughed more easily, when you didn't carry everything, when you didn't feel responsible for everything. So what changed? At some point, you learned something very important, not in a classroom, not from a book, but from life. You learned that being emotional was unsafe. Maybe you cried once and were told you were too sensitive. Maybe you needed comfort and were told to be strong. Maybe you asked for help and no one really came. So your nervous system adapted. It made a decision for you. If I don't need anyone, I won't be disappointed. If I don't depend on anyone, I won't be abandoned. If I handle everything myself, I will be safe. And slowly, strength stopped being a choice. It became a requirement. You became the responsible one, the calm one, the mature one, even when you were still a child. Maybe you were the one who didn't cause problems, the one who didn't demand attention, the one who understood too much for her age, and people praised you for it. They said you were independent, wise, strong, but what they didn't see was how much you were carrying alone. You learned to regulate yourself, to silence your emotions, to not make anyone uncomfortable, because somewhere along the way, you understood that your softness was inconvenient. So you built something else. You built competence, you built control, you built emotional distance, and it worked. You became capable, reliable, impressive. But here's the part most women don't realize. When survival mode lasts too long, it doesn't feel like survival anymore. It feels like personality. You start saying things like, that's just how I am. I don't really need people. I'm just independent. But independence born from wholeness feels different than independence born from fear. One is free, the other is armored, and armor is heavy, even when you've been wearing it for years, especially then. Maybe that's why you're tired, not because life is hard, but because you've been carrying emotional weight that was never meant to be permanent. You weren't supposed to stay in survival forever. You were supposed to visit it and then come back, but no one taught you how to come back. So you stayed strong, even when you didn't want to anymore. At first, it helped you. Being strong made you admired. Being independent made you respected. Being emotionally controlled made you look mature. But something subtle started happening. You stopped asking for help, not because you didn't need it, but because it felt easier to do everything yourself than to risk being disappointed. You stopped expressing when something hurt because you had already trained yourself to handle pain internally. You stopped expecting emotional depth because expectations felt dangerous, and slowly you became the woman who has it together, even when inside you were holding everything together with tension. Hyper-independence doesn't look like trauma, it looks like success. It looks like a woman who can handle anything. But underneath it is a nervous system that doesn't trust support. Control doesn't look like fear. It looks like responsibility, but sometimes control is just fear wearing high heels. You organize everything. You plan everything. You anticipate problems before they exist. And when someone disappoints you, you quietly tell yourself, this is why I don't rely on anyone. In relationships, this can look like strength, but it often feels like distance. You struggle to receive. You struggle to lean. You struggle to fully relax next to someone, even if they are safe, because your body learned long ago. Relaxing is risky, and then there's emotional numbness, not dramatic, not obvious, just subtle disconnection. You don't cry easily anymore. You don't feel excitement the same way. You function, you perform, you deliver, but you don't always feel. And this is where many women start whispering, I don't know what's wrong with me. Nothing is wrong with you. You adapted too well. Survival became identity, and identity became prison, not a visible prison, a quiet one, the kind where everyone says you're doing amazing, but you secretly feel alone in your own life. And that loneliness is not because you don't have people, it's because you don't feel safe enough to fully be seen. It usually doesn't happen in a dramatic way. There's no big collapse, no public breakdown. It's quieter than that. It's a Tuesday night. The house is finally silent. The dishes are done. The messages are answered. Everyone got what they needed from you. And for the first time all day, you sit down. You expect relief. But instead, there's a strange emptiness. You scroll your phone, not because you're interested, but because silence feels uncomfortable. You stare at the wall for a few seconds longer than usual, and a thought appears. Why do I feel like this? Nothing is technically wrong. Your life looks fine, maybe even good, but your body feels heavy, your chest feels tight, and there's a subtle desire to disappear for a while, not forever, just long enough to not be needed. You fantasize about being somewhere alone, no responsibilities, no expectations, no one calling your name, and then you feel guilty for even thinking that. Because you love your family, you're grateful, you should be happy, so you swallow it again, and the next morning you wake up. you function, you smile, you continue, and no one knows how close you are to emotional exhaustion. This is how strong women break, not loudly, but internally, piece by piece, until one day they look in the mirror and think, I don't know who I am anymore. And that moment is terrifying, because if you're not the strong one, who are you? But here's the truth no one told you. You didn't lose yourself, you protected yourself. The woman who feels cold sometimes was once a girl who felt too much. The woman who controls everything was once surrounded by unpredictability. The woman who doesn't ask for help once asked, and no one really showed up, so she adapted, she became strong. Not because she wanted power, but because she wanted safety. And that version of you deserves compassion, not criticism. You're not broken, you're not ungrateful, you're not too much. You are a woman who stayed in survival longer than she was meant to. And here's the shift. You don't need to destroy your life. You don't need to leave everything. You don't need a dramatic transformation. You need something much quieter. You need safety, internal safety, permission to soften, permission to not hold everything together, permission to say, I am tired, and not immediately apologize. Softness is not weakness. Softness is what happens when the nervous system feels safe. And maybe the woman you think you lost isn't gone. Maybe she's just waiting for you to feel safe enough to let her come back. So, what does this actually mean for you? It means you don't have to become someone new. You don't need a new personality. You don't need to be stronger. You've been strong enough. What you need is to come back to yourself slowly, gently, in small ways. Maybe it starts with noticing when you are over functioning, when you are doing something just because it feels unsafe not to. Maybe it starts with letting someone help you without explaining why you deserve it. Maybe it starts with allowing yourself to feel sadness without labeling it as weakness. This isn't about changing your life overnight. It's about changing your relationship with yourself, because the strongest women don't need to become stronger. They need to feel safe enough to soften. And that's what this space is for. Not to fix you, not to motivate you with noise, but to remind you of who you were before survival shaped you. You are not behind, you are not failing, you are becoming aware. And awareness is the beginning of returning. The woman you think you lost is still there. She is not weak, she is not naive, she is not too emotional, she is alive. And when you stop living only in survival, you don't become less powerful, you become whole. That is what it means to be woman reborn.